Welcome to this installment of the Dubb Action Online Summit. Today, we have such an important topic with such an important speaker. We're going to be talking about strategies with respect to uncertainty and so much more. If you could start with a bio, and then let's get into the topic.
Sure. So my passion is helping business owners, business leaders turn all of this uncertainty into their competitive advantage. My background is all in sales and leadership across a variety of industries. And for years, I didn't think my bio made all that much sense until I realized that every industry I've ever gotten into because they've been going through turmoil. Travel and tourism after a hurricane, healthcare when it was just going through regulation and managed care, and financial services when it was going through heavy competition and regulation. You put all that together, and uncertainty is really my passion, and really what I want people to think of it as something that can grow their business rather than prevent it.
Now, some people thrive in uncertainty. Some people find opportunity in uncertainty. In fact, some people create fortunes in uncertainty.
Yeah.
Other people, they find balance, and other people, they live within a fear-based mindset. So how can you help us to overcome some of the challenges that we might be faced with in times of uncertainty, feeling fear, feeling concern, financial, emotional, interpersonal, spiritual? Guide us on how to kind of overcome some of those challenges and actually turn those into an opportunity.
Yeah, that's such a great observation, because some people do find great opportunities, some find balance. Most of us, though, are riddled in fear. And this is what I've really gotten it down to, is that I started doing surveys and asking people, when uncertainty hits, are you somebody who runs to the sound of the gunfire and takes action, or do you take more of a wait and see approach? And most people want to run to the sound of the gunfire and take action, but they end up sitting back because they don't know what to do. And that was the problem we set out to solve when we wrote the book, Thrive, Turning Uncertainty to Competitive Advantage. We did research on exactly those people you were talking about that find balance, that find opportunity, and we wanted to know why. And from there, we wrote a 9-step formula. So it takes the fear out by knowing exactly what to do. If you, again, most people want some kind of, ironically, we want control in an uncertain time. And what we did with that formula was gave people control.
Tell me more about the book. What was this process like? What was the thesis? I see on your website you offer the first chapter as a download, which is amazing. Take us through this process here.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I became obsessed with the word uncertainty when the economy was really good. And the reason I became obsessed with it is I would talk to business owners and say, how's business? Everybody would answer the same. Business is good, business is great, but oh, this uncertainty. And it just made me think, wow, even when things are good, we let uncertainty stop us from reaching our potential. And I thought, what if you flipped the script on that? What if you started to think about uncertainty as a positive, as something that was actually good in your personal life and your professional life, and something that could actually transform you to another level? So I set out to find businesses and leaders that had done that, and ended up researching 9 companies that have been in business since the late 1700s, early 1900s, and they're still in business, thriving today. That means they've come through world wars, economic depression, and I didn't realize the value of it at the time, but they just survived their second pandemic. And from that, I wrote the 9-step formula of thriving in uncertainty. So the book, I call it a history lesson you'll love. Take a breath. Every 50 to 60 years, our world goes crazy. We go through economic, religious, political upheaval. The second part of the book is the story of the 9 companies and the 9-step strategy. And then the last part of the book is this happens in your personal life too. It's not like the Great Depression ended at 5 o'clock. You had to go home and deal with it in your personal life too. So it's how to apply the strategy, no matter if you're frontline personnel or if you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. This formula applies to everybody.
Now, you mentioned a 9-step program. Are you able to kind of give us a little bit of a teaser on that program to have us understand that?
Yeah, sure. So you have to do all 9 steps, and you have to do all 9 steps in order. But I'll just quickly give you 2 of the steps. The first is, if you want to get through an uncertain marketplace, if you want to thrive in uncertainty, the very first thing you have to have is a vision. You have to have a relentless vision. In other words, you have to know where you're going and where you're going to wind up. There was a great quick story. There was a great story about a group of kids who were going whitewater rafting. And about a week before they were supposed to go on this trip, there were torrential downpours that took the river from class 2 to class 5 rapids. And the guide told the kids they couldn't go, but they were kids. So they begged and they pleaded until the guide gave in. The guide said, you can go on this trip if you sit through a safety talk. And the kids sat there for 3 hours as the guide talked about the obstacles they were going to hit on the river, the downed trees, the high water, the big rocks. But she spent 3 times as much time focused on what she called the positive point, or the vision of where the raft needed to go. And she explained it like this. She said, when we go through turmoil of an uncertain waters, you're going to see obstacles, and I need to point those out to you. But I immediately am going to point you to where the raft needs to go. Because if you stay focused on the rocks, you're going to hit them. If you stay focused on the high water, the raft is going to go down. But if you're aware of those and then immediately turn your focus to where the raft needs to go, it'll be pulled like a magnet. Our businesses are the same way. You have to see above the obstacle, and you have to see beyond the uncertainty.
You know, I resonate with that on so many levels, from a business perspective, from a personal perspective.
Yeah.
You know, I have made this mistake on my mountain bike.
Yes, me too.
I'm on the single track trail,
Yeah.
and I see something that's an obstacle in my way, and I immediately focus on it because it's uncertainty, because it's death potentially. And you know, instead of looking at the path on where I should go, I focus on that, and then of course I fall,
Right.
which is a self-fulfilled prophecy. You know, this mistake I've made also in my Jeep, where I was climbing a hill on my Jeep, and there was a breakup in the trail, and I was focusing on it. I said, God, I really don't want to get my tires stuck in that one. Sure enough, I got my tires stuck in that one. That's right. So now I try to make it a point to go back to that trail and to always remember to stay on that path. I really, really appreciate that advice. It's so important. You know, tell us more on how we can apply that to business. What are the obstacles that we are seeing with business? Where are our failure points? Where are our holes in the road that can suck us in, that we can be aware of, but avoid and focus on the future?
What a brilliant segue for somebody who hasn't even read the book. You just let us smack into strategy number 2. The truth is, in an uncertain marketplace, there is more happening outside of your business than inside it that can take you off your success track. That's the biggest challenge with uncertainty, is that there's so much that's outside of your control. So rather than letting change control you, you have to control change. We call this strategy conditioning yourself for change. Change can be your greatest opportunity if you see it coming. If you ignore it, change is going to bury you. So we use a tool called a skeptic, and it's just a set of words that are society, competition, economics, politics, technology, industry, and customers. And I just tell my clients, every 30 days, if the uncertainty is high, every quarter, if it's not as high, just get together with a group of peers or your team and brainstorm, what are the changes that you see happening with society, competition, economics, politics, technology, industry, or customers. Doing that, you're going to do exactly what you just said. You're going to start to see the shifts coming. But the power is you're going to anticipate them. You're going to be able to see the shifts coming long before you need to make change, giving you the time, energy, and resources to be ahead of the change rather than behind it.
That makes a ton of sense. A lot of people have problem with control. A lot of people suffer from these issues where they might, I would say that the spectrum is the micromanager to the ambivalent, to the person that just says, I want to let things happen the way that they are. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we find balance in that spectrum? What are some of the things that we might do as business people?
Yeah, I think it's really funny that the only thing that I can guarantee you in an uncertain marketplace is uncertainty. That's it. But it's the thing that we ignore, right?
Nice.
Even the gurus tell us we'll get good at change once change shows up. But I say that change is like a muscle and you need to work it, you need to build it so you become resilient to it. So that's why I want you to talk about it. One of the biggest challenges business owners have today, leaders have today, is getting their teams to accept change. Well, we don't like change because we feel like change is done to us. What that tool does is it starts to put you in the position of control with change. If I'm deciding what changes we need to pay attention to, if I'm deciding what changes we need to act on, all of a sudden it feels like my idea and I feel motivated and excited about it. And here's the beauty of it. Even if you don't guess the change right, you're still in better shape for change than if you just sat there like a bump on a log and thought about, well, I hope I'm ready when change shows up. Think about how much our world has changed since COVID hit. And if you are still doing the things the way you were doing them in March of 2020, you're probably not here right now. So if you want to make 2021 and 2022 successful, just start to anticipate the things that are coming. It will completely change your mindset, how you feel about change. And all of a sudden, you'll have a team of people who are saying, I think we need to do this. Let's try this. They're anticipating rather than reacting.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the topics that I think about a lot with respect to this is having a competitive advantage, having a competitive edge. And I might argue that the speed at which we respond to uncertainty and we adapt to change equals the amount of competitive advantage that we might possess, right? If our competitors cannot respond to changes in the marketplace, let's say advertising on Facebook, which is a huge topic right now with respect to Apple and privacy and a number of things. The agencies that are able to adapt to that, those are the ones that might thrive because they have this advantage of being first to market. So how can we take uncertainty, adapting to change, and then turn that into a competitive advantage?
Okay, that's my absolute favorite strategy and favorite story from the book. And it all comes down to being relevant. If you want to competitive advantage, you need to grow your business from the inside out. You need to start talking to your customers before you even think about advertising, you even think about selling, you even think about marketing. Go out and talk to your customers. Just check in with them, ask them how they're doing. Why? Number one, they're going to be loyal to you if you do that. But number two is you're going to find out the problems that they have now and the language they're using to describe those problems. That's your competitive advantage. Quick story. One of the companies that I interviewed for the book was Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble was started in the early 1800s by two men, Procter & Gamble, who married sisters. Their future father-in-law said, boys, quit competing with one another and start a company. The first product they wanted to put on the market was soap. Talk about a commodity. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you get competitive advantage with soap? Well, they did exactly this. They went out and talked to their customers. And what they found out was people loved soap. They would have wanted to buy soap. But the problem with soap was when you used it, you would lather up and it would slip out of your hands. People told Procter & Gamble they wanted a soap that floats. So Procter & Gamble injected air into a bar of soap, and Ivory soap was put on the market with the exact language their customers said, a soap that floats. So while their competitors were selling soaps that smelled good, soaps that came in different colors and shapes, they sold a relevant product. And by the end of the 1800s, they were $1 million company.
Which would be a billion-dollar company.
Yeah, that was, they would have, by the end of the 1800s, they would have been experiencing maybe the first income tax, but very, very tiny. Right. You are exactly right.
And the brilliant thing about this is that with this vision and with marketing and with branding, they could take a word like ivory, which I know sinks, and turn that into a floating soap just with good communication and with listening to customer needs and giving them what they want. Tremendous story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure. Yeah. The big point is they never change the customer language. Don't ever change your customer language. Use exactly what they tell you, and that's your competitive advantage.
Amazing. Let's close out on the idea of listening, being a good listener, right? Listening comes in the form of asking questions, but it also comes in the form of searching for information where it's not necessarily expected. Looking at reviews, hearing referral information, things on LinkedIn. How can we become better, actionable listeners?
Yeah, that is such a good question because I think there is so much power. I think when you listen, you're asking questions and you're listening to the answers, but you're also listening to really identify what the problem is. The greatest example I can give you is just where I started this at the top of the interview with why I became obsessed with uncertainty. I was listening to what people were saying without them physically saying it to me. They were telling me that uncertainty was a problem, even in good economic times. So you need to take all the wisdom that you have in your business. And when you listen to people, listen to the problem they aren't solving. Listen for the problem they don't even realize they have yet. So listen to the answers with their questions, but go beyond that to try to identify a problem that they don't even realize they have, but one that they want an answer to. Again, just like I did with uncertainty, I identified the fact that people were struggling with it. And if I could solve that problem, I could really bring value. So it's as much about using your expertise and going beyond that.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. Where can we learn more about you? Social channels, website?
Yeah, so I tend to live on LinkedIn, and so appreciate you bringing up my profile here. I'm a big believer. If you build your network, it will change your life. So if you connect with me, I will definitely connect with you. And also at my website, which is just simply the words valuespeaker.com, just the words valuespeaker.com. And again, build your network, change your life. Reach out with me. I will connect with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the time, Meredith. Really appreciate you. See you next time.
It's been fabulous. Thanks.